In strict adherence to the requirements of the book's treasure submittal form, I recently submitted the exact locations of the 9 remaining outstanding casks. It has become obvious to me that neither the publisher nor the estate have any intention of honoring the terms of the secret, A Treasure Hunt, by taking the simple steps necessary to verify my submittals. Therefore, in this video, I'm going to detail the methodology and steps to solve for the location of any cask. I will demonstrate the steps on just 4 locations: Houston, Boston, Chicago, and New York. The rest are up to you. This is a photograph of the cask inside the plexiglass case, and I'm showing this to you to show you it's about 6 inches cubed. And in the aerials that I use for this method, I'm usually at about an eye elevation of about 700 feet. And at 700 feet, every millimeter that you're off in determining the location of the cask is about 6.5 inches. And in the next slide, I will show you how I come to that number. But there's great amount of sensitivity in getting it exactly correct, and that can be a problem in that some of the illustrations, I will say, are fuzzy for lack of a better word. In order to illustrate the sensitivity of the measurements, we're here at Wrigley Field in Chicago, and we're going to come down to an eye altitude of about 700 feet. You can see your eye altitude in the bottom right-hand corner there. Getting close. That's close enough. And now we're going to do a measurement because we know the distance between the bases is 90 feet. And there it is right there. Now you can't see it, but I'm putting a ruler on the screen, and the length of this yellow line is 15 centimeters. That means that every millimeter is over 6.5 inches. Now the plastic case that the casks are in looks to be about a 6-inch cube. So if you're off just 3 millimeters, that's 18 inches, and that can be a significant distance when searching for the cask. Another huge potential issue is the aerial that was given to the illustrator. Because if we assume in this thing that A is the length on the ground and B is the 700 feet above the ground that our aerials are at, and then angle alpha is the degrees off of dead center. We're only going to use 1 degree off of vertical. So if we put in 1 degree there and then we put in our eye altitude of 700 feet, you'll see that on the ground the distance A is going to be about 12 feet. So if the illustrator was not given direct vertical aerials, you could have some significant issues in determining where the cask is exactly located. Utilize the first 75% of a given poem to identify the park or private property in which a cask is buried. This is the Houston poem, and it will easily lead you to Herman Park. However, the last part of the poem is very vague and gives you very little clue as to the cask buried location. Using Google Earth's vertical view aerials at an eye altitude of approximately 700 feet, take screenshots of the park or property's improvements. You then outline the improvements with a dark marker and then trace the improvements. Then you have to combine the improvement shapes to make additional shapes. Now here we have the aerial. Normally I'm at an eye elevation of 700 feet, but I've taken this aerial just to show you the sheer magnitude of the number of shapes that you have to draw in order to match that shape up or that jigsaw puzzle piece up with a jigsaw puzzle piece from the illustration. As you can see on the right hand side is our column and our ball. As you just did with the aerial, now you're going to outline all of the shapes in the illustration with a dark marker and then trace the improvements with a black marker. You want to combine shapes again to make additional shapes. The first step is I take the illustration and I outline all of the shapes in black magic marker. And then I come back with tracing paper and go over those lines so that you have these shapes without all the noise. Now, once you've done that, you're going to have to do the same thing to the aerial. Now, the X marks the spot in this particular case is the star, and that is 3 millimeters. Now what you see here is the tracing paper going over the illustration that has been outlined in black magic marker. And rather than do all of the shapes, we're going to go to the shape that is the operative one, which is the column with the ball on it. Here we are circling the star and then outlining the ball and column. You will now have virtually hundreds of red and black shapes, and now you must find a matching shape or piece of a shape from those two sets of drawings. Now you need to create a PDF file of the matching illustration shape together with the cask location marker and resize that PDF to the size of the matching shape of the aerial. Now you're going to overlay the resized isolated illustration shape PDF on the aerial and mark the cask location. So here we have the aerial, and we're going to lay that tracing on top of it and see where the star lands. And you'll see, if you were there, the location of the cask is going to match up with the poem, which is looking back from treasured ground. There's a spout, which is the lake, which is due south on this, this orientation. A whistle sounds, and that would be the train. Now that you know the method, we're going to go straight to the answers here. Now here's the Boston illustration. The star there is the X marks the spot, and that little square up there is what is the shape that we need to, or the jigsaw puzzle piece that we need to match up. So here we are outlining the square and outlining the star. Now here's an aerial of the area before these fields were ripped up. And the red dot on right there is where the cask was hidden. Now, if we take the tracing after we've resized it, and we place the square on the right baseball diamond, you will see that the star ends up right in front of home plate for the other baseball diamond and right where the cask was located. Now here we are in the Chicago illustration, and we are tracing the left tower, and at the top of that tower there is a circle, and that's going to be your X marks the spot. And that circle is 2 millimeters, and again at a 700-foot elevation on an aerial, that is about 13 inches. So again, our tolerances are very, very tight in trying to determine where it is. Now I've resized that tower, and again tracing over it with the tracing paper so that the tower is going to match up with our improvements in Grant Park. Now here's a portion of Grant Park. That red dot is approximately where the cask was found, and if you lay your tracing of the tower on top of that, you can see the circle is just on the edge of that red dot, indicating that that is where the cask should be found. Now on to New York, and this is going to illustrate some of the fuzziness that is inherent in this treasure hunt. Now this is Roosevelt Island, and if you follow the clues or look online, you will see it's very evident that Roosevelt Island is the location of the cask. Now our focus will be on the north end of the island at the lighthouse, which is shown here. Now again, we're not going to draw all the shapes and go through the entire methodology. We're just going to go to the operative shape. And that is actually the wave down below. And in the wave, you will see a very, very little white dot. And that is our X marks the spot. So here we are. We're going to outline the ebb of the wave here. And then we're also going to circle the white dot. Here's our tracing original, and here it is increased to fit the aerial we're going to be using. And here is the high angle shot of Roosevelt Island, you can see we're going to be concentrating on the north end right here. So if we take that picture and we're going to invert it, because the poem says from the middle of one branch of the V, and right here is where the V is. So now we're going to lay the tracing paper over and indicate where the treasure should be. Now you can see only part of the outline actually lines up on the improvements there. And again, this goes back to the fuzziness. So we're going to go ahead and mark that location because it's going to be off in our next video. Here we are in New York at the East River, and here's Roosevelt Island. And we are at about 9,000 feet elevation. So let's bring that on in to about 700 feet and focus on the north end of the island and the lighthouse area. And whoops, there we go, 704. Now the poem says twice as many east steps as the hour, which is 11, so 22, or more. So let's assume 26. And let's assume a stride of 3 feet. That would be about 78 feet. And then it says, from the middle of one branch of the V. Now, the V is either here or here. I have used here as the end point of the V. So the midpoint's going to be around here. So let's measure 78 feet from the midpoint. Say right there. And 78 feet at 90 degrees puts us about there. I'm going to save that. Now, the indicated location of the cask by the illustration is right about here. So if we go there, we can see the difference is about 60 feet. So this illustrates the fuzziness of the illustrations and what you have to deal with. What is twice as many steps, east steps, as the hour or more? We know that's 11 is the hour. 22, what is or more? And where is the middle of the V? I don't think this takes away from the methodology at all. It just illustrates how difficult it is to apply it, and the fact that if you really want to do this, you need a ground penetrating radar device. Otherwise, you're going to be digging up the whole north end of Roosevelt Island. It is my belief that without a ground penetrating radar, finding a cask will be very difficult. This methodology will get you very close, but there are some variables which can affect its accuracy. I feel this way due to my field experience and my belief that the aerials that were used to create the illustrations may not have been vertical in nature and therefore will not match perfectly with Google Earth. You'll be close, but you're looking for a 6-inch cubed item. Close doesn't cut it. As to why I don't have a cask in hand, I have tried numerous approaches, including clandestine night and early morning digging to direct appeals to government officials, obviously without success. The biggest impediment is the fuzziness of the respective illustrations, embedded treasure maps, and the source material for the illustrations, which can all affect the accuracy.